Hi everyone, so in today's video we're going to be discussing characters from Mortal Kombat that I believe have a lot of potential. I did this video on the Batman Arkham series the other day, so I thought why not do it for the other series that I cover quite a bit. Now this video is not going to be on characters that I think have reached like a lot of, it's weird to sort of say success in the series, but characters that I've written pretty well, characters that have a pretty big fan base, stuff like that, they won't really be considered here. So a character like Reptile, who I think, even though up to MK1 he had a big fan base, never really did too well in terms of story. His story was pretty stagnant, it never really changed. However, in MK1 they made him pretty different. I would argue for the better. I think a lot of you guys would too. So characters like that aren't really going to be included here, but it's mainly going to be, I'll tell you now, characters from the 3D era. Now I want to actually start with one that wasn't in MK1 but I feel like might come back as a cameo, definitely should at least, and that's Hotaru. Now he has a lot of potential with a lot of characters. Mainly, I know Darius is a cameo, but he has a big backstory with Darius in Deception, I believe, and he also is, you know, he's from a place that cares a lot about order and, you know, that type of thing, which goes against Havoc, who's of course all about chaos. So their dynamic would be pretty interesting to see on screen. And I think Hotaru doesn't actually have a lot of fans, even though there are a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of you watching this know about the 3D era characters, but he's actually pretty popular from the 3D era, I would say. Not as much as someone like Kenshi, Quan Chi, Havoc, literally any of the characters from the 3D era that are in MK1. He's not as popular as them, but I think he has a lot of story opportunities, and I'm really like, I don't want to say upset, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but I feel like he had a lot of potential that they could have somehow like found a way to fit it into MK1's story, or at least if he comes, you know, in the game as DLC, I think he could work really well in a DLC story. Now that we know Chaos Havoc is meant to be the main villain, I think bringing back Hotaru would bring a nice little, like, it would make the story better. It would make it more sense, at least to me. It'd be more enjoyable if we have, you know, Hotaru, maybe he could be a good guy in this, you know, timeline, or they could keep him a villain. Either way, it doesn't matter, but I think it'd be a cool way to take the story. Now, another character, and I touched on him a little there, is actually Havoc. He's in MK1, but I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they didn't do him well at all. I think he's the best he's been, but I feel like he's just boring. I don't know why, something about his look just doesn't feel right to me. His hair looks weird, that doesn't really matter, but just something I wanted to say. And I feel like his story in MK1 is just pretty bland, it's pretty boring. I think they could have done a lot more with him. As I said, I feel like that could have intertwined with Hotaru's story, and yeah, they chose not to do that. They chose to have him as someone who just works for Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, which doesn't come out of left field. It makes sense, but it's just a sort of safe way to handle his character. And this video is coming out before the rumored DLC expansion about him, so in that story he might be like, it sounds like he's about to be the main villain, so this whole point about him not being that great in base Mortal Kombat 1 story could be like completely irrelevant by the time that comes out. So for now, I think he has a lot of wasted potential that I think they could, you know, dive into a little bit and expand his character. You know, maybe don't have him serve anyone, have him be, you know, his own threat, I guess. Have him pose as a threat to everyone instead of working for someone else. I think that is the best way to take his character. But another character I want to actually discuss is Li Mei. Li Mei is a weird one because I feel like in MK1 they did her really, really well, but she still doesn't have that big of a fan base. So before MK1 she was still popular, she was a character people wanted, and we got her in MK1 and I love her. I think she's awesome, but I feel like they could have, like, I feel like, I'm not saying they didn't do enough, because I actually think they did, but I would love to see them do even more with her in the story expansion, because she has a lot of character progression, and you see, like, at the start, no one believes in her. Everyone's sort of dissing her, but then at the end, everyone starts to believe in her, and it's a cool little motivational story. But I feel like she is capable of a lot in this game, and not just in this game, but in the whole series. I feel like she's been shown to be very capable, not just as, you know, a fighter, but just in general. Like, she's a very strong character, and I feel like even though they haven't, you know, told much of a story with her, I feel like she should definitely come back in the next Mortal Kombat game, because I feel like they could actually do quite a lot with her. Now, the last character I want to discuss for now, I might make a part 2 to this, is actually Rain. Rain is not good in this game. I think that he always is kind of, he has a similar character in most of the games, but I think that he, kind of like Havoc, is capable of having his own little, I guess, plan of his own. Like, he could be a threat to not just Earthrealm, but all the other realms. I don't really think he is meant, I don't feel like he should be serving Shang Tsung. You know, yeah, they give him a reason. I'm pretty sure, at least, I don't really remember, but they usually try to give a reason as to why people work with someone. But I feel like Rain, being capable of what he is, I feel like he could have his own faction that is against everyone. You might disagree, that's alright. But he wasn't in MK11's story, and he was only in MKX's story, weirdly enough, and he's not even playable. But that was the best sort of representation of him. In MK11, again, he wasn't in the story. MK9, he was DLC, and MK1, I feel like they just didn't do him very well. He definitely seems like, you know, a jobber character, a character that you just come up against in the story because you need to make sure everyone gets fought against at least once. That's sort of what it feels like. But again, the reason he's on this video is because I do think he has a lot of potential. They just didn't really, you know, work on that in this game. Now, I understand that a majority of these characters were from the 3D era, because I think that those characters all have a lot of potential that a lot of people don't really want to get into. Now, finally, this one will be very quick, probably won't even spend a minute on it, but Su Hao, probably the most hated character. I actually think he has potential if they give him a complete rework. So you can keep elements of his design there, but maybe, you know, change who he works for, maybe change his faction, make him start his own faction, like change up his design a little bit, make him have like interesting moves, make him fun to play, just change up his story, and I think that people would actually give him a chance. Now, NetherRealm are obviously a little too scared to put him in a game because of how much hate he gets, but I think that bringing him back as a cameo would be the perfect way to do that. And then if that works, maybe try and put him in the next game and just give him a minor role in the story, just to see if people, you know, sort of warm up to him, and if they don't, then you leave him out in the next game. But if they start to like him, you can expand his character, because as much as people hate this character, and I'm not saying I love this character by any means, but he's not the worst character in the series, despite what a lot of you watching this might think. And if you do think that, as usual, that's perfectly fine, but I think he has a lot more potential than characters like Cobra or Kira, and I would like them to sort of delve into that a little bit more. But that's about it for today's video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Consider leaving a like and subscribing for more Mortal Kombat videos. Thank you, guys.